without any further ado, I have a speech here so that I can introduce Sheila. So Sheila Skolnick's story is truly rags to riches. Sheila created and started her business with no money, no experience, no mentors, and no connections. 14 years later, Sheila sold her business to a $6 billion company. Today, we learn firsthand how you can also create a very successful business from a woman that actually was in the trenches. Her business and personal guiding principles will be a vehicle to guide you in your business. Sheila ran her own distribution and manufacturing company and provided operating equipment and supplies to thousands of hotels around the world. On a personal level, Sheila overcame challenges that included poverty, an almost non-existent education, a dysfunctional home, and a very dangerous neighborhood. Sheila was forced to teach herself to read in high school and developed a no excuses mindset. Today she works as a business advisor, does workshops and seminars, and is a keynote speaker. So welcome, Sheila. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ty, for having me here. As Ty says, I am Sheila Skolnick, and my company name is 7-Star Culture. That name comes from a hotel industry, actually, because when I sold to hotels, I sold to 5-star hotels. And then recently, there's a new hotel in Abu Dhabi that's a 6-star hotel. So I decided to call my company 7-Star Culture. And it's the culture in your company that makes your company what it is. Okay, you can have the best products, everything, but if everything that goes on in there is not working right, you really have nothing. So anyway, what I do, I teach people how to have and grow a safe and large business. What qualifies me to do it? I created a multi-million-dollar business, as was said, with no money, no mentors, nothing. I just went out and did it. I didn't know that I couldn't do it because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone telling me it's impossible because I was a lone ranger. I was by myself. And my push and my momentum was I had to feed my children. I had to feed them, and then when my sons got older, they were accepted to Ivy League schools, so then I really had to push it. You know, I really had to make it go even bigger, and it did. I sold, by the time I sold my company, which was purchased by Enterprise Rent-A-Car, a $6 billion company back then, which is now, I don't even know how many billions now. When they closed down my computers, I had sold to thousands and thousands and thousands of hotels around the world and around the country. So that's what qualifies me to teach and train from my own knowledge. It's not like I read it in the book or somebody told me. You know, it's like a woman giving birth. She can only tell you the real story because she's did it. You really can't write about it. You have to do it. I also invented products in the lodging industry that did not exist before. And this came about because when I went from hotel to hotel, teaching myself in business, I discovered things that were needed in the industry. And for example, I went to a trade show because I used to do 17 trade shows a year. I went to a trade show, and right before I'd go to the trade show, I used to call housekeeping. And I used to say, could you please bring up an ironing board? And I'd quickly stick it under the bed. Because when you're at a Marriott, which is going to have 2,000-3,000 rooms, and it's a business, you're not getting that ironing board the next day. So I said to myself, all these hotels need it, but I need to explain why they should make this big investment, because it's a big investment. So the first thing I did was figure out where it could be placed, how it could be placed. I got an organizer and an iron the board, and I went, perfect. Then I went about going to individual hotels. Actually, I went to the the Marriott in Manhattan first, and I explained to them, I said, how many housemen do you have? They told me. And so I said, well, you know, if you buy this product for your hotels, then they can go do something else. Plus, you know, even if you get 20 housemen bringing these things up and down, you're not going to get good customer service remarks because you're going to be late. So I proved to them that it was needed and they bought it. And then of course the Marriott corporate, I went there and they all did Marriott corporate, then they did Hilton's, Hyatt's, and then I got a $7 million contract from, $7 million from Holiday Inns, because they made a decree as well that you had to have an ironing board, and I also sold the clock radio to go along with it.
It's your fault that I had to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. So, the number I got when Enterprise closed out my computer, and I'll never publish this because I can't believe it, but by the end of the day, I sold to 35,000 hotels. Now you have to, if you do the chains, all the Westins, all the Hyatts and Marriotts and blah, 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 it's a lot of hotels in this industry. And I just want to point out, I made a decision to sell to hotels because I figured and I say this to the business people, you know, when you go out to sell and you don't have money, you have to be careful who you sell to. So when I went into Manhattan to sell to hotels, I only sold to hotels where there was a corporate office that I can go complain and get my money. So for entrepreneurs, think who you're selling to. And the other decision I made was, and I teach at my seminars, if you want to make a lot of money, don't knock on doors of companies that don't have it. You know, this is simple stuff that you think about. Knock on doors that have a lot of money so they can spend a lot of money to pay you. So I did the press kit, and then I was somehow, you gotta realize, while I'm going through the city doing all this, there's this little girl here who was very poor, had nothing, and then all of a sudden she's with the big guys. And so that's where my next saying of act as if, that's one of the things that I did. I had to act as if, first of all, I knew what I was doing. I also had to, and I decided to sell to 4- and 5-star hotels only. They bought more, right? They had money and had someone to complain to. And I used to go in there, and I used to act as if I had to put the pearls on and the suits. I had to act as if I was on their level, that I came from their backgrounds, their surroundings, because the 4- and 5-star hotels were dedicated to the very upscale people. And before long, I became called upon by the hotels to do walkthroughs with the general managers and operations. Somehow they thought, she must know, she's so upscale. I'm sure she's so wealthy. Act as if. So another principle is act as if you are. Doesn't matter that you're not. You know, you're not lying. You're just acting as if you belong there. And that also helped me get in back of the house of the hotels. That's where all the employees go in. Because when you go into a hotel, you just can't show up at housekeeping. You just can't show up. So I used to go through security. And I used to have my suit on, sharp suit. I used to invest my money in clothes at the beginning. And my pearls, always wore my pearls. And then I used to just walk through security. And I still, good afternoon, and up to the rooms. I went down to housekeeping, purchasing. I just acted as if. So another thing to remember when you go about in life, act as if, but really mean it. Don't lie, don't be devious, just act as if, you know, and it'll be. What you think is what you have. So for example, another thing I teach is, if you think negative, let's say negative words come out of your mouth, your brain hears it, then you double negative yourself. And another thing is, when you go to speak to people, and they say, how are you? Another thing I teach. Don't say, oh, I'm so tired of the wife and the organization, I'm so busy. Because I don't want to do business with you. I want to do business with somebody that's strong, doing well, and is up to the job of taking on what I have to offer them, especially big business. So the biggest thing, I had this one guy in one of my workshops. The minute you said hello to him, he went on for like 10 minutes. So finally, I took him by the arm and I said, From now on, if you want to come back into this group, when someone tells you, how are you? You say, I'm great, never been better. End of story. So a lot of my teaching and training is transformational, and I give them a new way of thinking. Because as far as marketing and sales, you know, you can just flow through the internet and get all sorts of good stuff. But all that marketing and sales mean nothing if you're not showing up as powerful and you're not working hard. Another thing I tell my people when they want jobs or when they tell me they want to work in business, first thing I say to people in my group, how many hours do you think you want to work a week, you know, owning your own business? No matter what they tell me, if they don't tell me 24/7, I tell them, forget it, you're not going to succeed. Because the bottom line is, if you want to start your own business and you want to create a powerful, large business, then it's 24/7. Until such time, you get a happy birthday, Sheila, here's X number of millions for building a big business. It's your choice. You know, people talk about work balance. It's your choice what you want. But just don't be disappointed if your company doesn't get to be big. Because this is what you have to do. Period, end of story. I used to come from Port Jefferson. I came from Port Jefferson and I went to Manhattan. So you know how long that took. You had to drive to the station, then it's a 2-hour train ride, then you get off the train, then you took the bus. I started all the way uptown at the Plaza Atene. Then it's another half hour. You add up how many hours I traveled just to get to my first stop. And people say, oh, you're so lucky. I want to give him a punch in the face. Not so lucky, not so lucky. I did it purposely. I did it on purpose. So these are things you have to know. So if you don't have the high energy for it, and I right now don't have the high energy for it, but if you want it, you can have it. You know, but just know you have to work very, very hard for it. And also know you can have whatever you want. You are not locked in by anything. Whatever you think of, you can do. So, you know, the best thing that happened to me was I was alone. This woman coming from Port Jefferson, I remember I was working on Long Island and I was selling to firehouses and RVs and nursing homes and all the things like that. I was selling janitorial supplies and equipment as an outside contractor. And then one day I said, I wonder how it feels to sell in Manhattan. And I had nobody to tell me what to think or do. So off I went into Manhattan. And I remember going up the escalator and landing on 7th Avenue. And across the street was the Pennsylvania Hotel. So when I used to sell to hotels on Long Island, I sold to some hotels, I used to count the number of windows so I knew how to price them for the paper towels, toilet tissue, cleaning supplies. So I opened 50 rooms, okay, so they were 20 rooms. So I'm sitting there like a yahtzee. I'm counting the windows, literally count. And then I have to go like around the block. And all of a sudden, it was like, aha. And I said, and this is where I shall dwell forever and ever. And I came into Manhattan twice a week. Because back at home, I was in my office, which was growing. I handled my local business because I had to eat, okay? You can do more than once at a time if you really try. I had to eat, so I was still selling to the local businesses and, you know, the fire departments, high profit. And then I'd come in twice a week, and I do the same process. I knocked on the doors at hotels for a year. 13 hotels a day. Physically, it drained me. As a matter of fact, to get myself to go on to the next hotel, I used to say, Sheila, if you got over to the Intercontinental Hotel, I'm gonna buy you a Nesquik Crunch. So I motivated myself like that. When I get home at night, I just empty my pockets full with candy wrappers. You have to do what you have to do. So the bottom line is, so let me just tell you this other thing. So I didn't even get to my principles of business. I'm so sorry. I'm still telling you stories. One of my principles of business, and I have 47 of them. I'm not going to tell you them all. But, and these principles I developed as I went, as I made up what I was doing. I was making this stuff up as I was going along. What does an entrepreneur do? They find a hole and fill it. Be careful of the hole you fill, because you want to fill a hole that'll pay you big money and will pay you, and is a good lifestyle. Going into 5-star hotels and having my purchasing agents and my general managers give me fine chocolate because they know it's a chocoholic. They used to have a piece ready for me. Life got good after 10 years. So 10 years. So anyway, one of the things I teach is to say yes to everything. Say yes to everything. As long as it's not immoral, illegal, can hurt you or somebody else. So with that thinking, you go through the world, and you know, I was out in the world. I was out there. I sometimes in the way I was going, but it didn't matter. I kept going. So when someone used to ask me for something, I didn't say, oh no, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. I used to say,